Her style is a confrontation. Fashion feared her, not because she broke the rules, but because she refused to play the game.
Should I be worried about interviewing you?
Why? I don't think so.
You have a notorious reputation, though, don't you? As a tough...
For what?
Well, there's a reputation of, first of all, hitting someone in a London interview.
Yeah. And? Is that all I've got to my credit?
Grace appeared in the late 1970s into a society not ready for her. Nobody knew about AIDS, pride had no name, and genders were fixed. So she arrived like a black female prophecy.
I think one has to begin first with themselves and then go from there. And for me to say I don't find women attractive would be saying that I don't find myself attractive.
Grace Jones didn't fit into any world, so the world had to bend around her. The way she looked at you, the way she moved, it was wild, untamed, like something that had never been domesticated and never would be. People feared her and admired her from a distance, not because she was violent, but because she could be.
You know, I think it has a lot to do with my voice, probably has a lot to do with it. I look people straight in the eye, so I look like I'm looking right through their souls. Right. I think that probably has a lot to do with people feeling intimidating. Is that true?
Yeah, it's not easy to talk to a woman whose voice is deeper than yours.
And
it's just
straight in the eye.
straight in the eye.
They all tried to define her, Gaud with silhouettes, Warhol with paint, Newton with light. But she slipped through every frame.
I do what I want. I don't put it in a category, and I don't make any comparisons, and I don't say I prefer one to this or one to that, because that's like saying, I'll never do this or I'll never do that.
She was the interruption, the noise before the change, before anyone knew what to call it. Initially, she wanted to be an actress. She studied drama in New York, but the roles didn't come. Too much, too different, too black. She wasn't cast. Not on stage, not on screen. Modeling wasn't the dream. She turned to it when acting didn't pay the rent. She wasn't discovered, she insisted on being seen. At 18, Grace returned to New York and signed with Wilhelmina Models. But the booking stayed out. No go-sees, no interest. Even John Casablancas of Elite said she was unsellable.
He said to me, trying to sell a black model in Paris is like trying to sell an old car nobody wants to buy. I'll never forget his exact words, quote, unquote. He said, not even Beverly Johnson can work in this town.
So she left. In 1970, she landed in Paris. Paris wasn't easy either. Blackness wasn't yet considered an asset. She moved in with two other women, both still unknown, Jessica Lange and Jerry Hall, 3 girls chasing rent, clothes, castings. Without knowing, they'd become icons. In that tight circle of wild hope, Grace found a way forward. They weren't waiting to be discovered. They hustled. They built their own space, booked their own shoots, and managed their own PR. Ran their lives like a startup long before anyone called it that.
I did go to Paris, and I did go with an agency that absolutely formed an agency with Jerry Hall, myself, Esty Maillot, and one other girl who I can't remember her name. And we started an agency just with the 4 of us. And they loved us, and they sent us everywhere. Helmut Newton, Hans Scherer, everybody got really excited, Chris von Wagenheim, and then it took off like that.
By 1975, Grace was walking the runways of Paris for Yves Saint Laurent, Kenzo, Claude Montana, and Paco Rabanne. She graced the covers of Elle, Vogue, Stern. The same face that had been too black in New York was now exactly what Paris wanted. She was often self-styled, her angles too sharp for the norms.
For all the styles, all the fashions, all the values, Cohen's Fashion Optical, because some people know how to make a spectacle of themselves.
Unfortunately, there isn't much video material from this era. This could be the end of the story of a successful model. While others would be happy with runway success, it wasn't fulfilling for her. Let's pause, because what follows isn't linear. She didn't pivot from fashion to music or from modeling to film. She did it all, at once. Her path didn't follow culture. Her debut album, Portfolio, landed in 1977. With it came I Need a Man, a disco anthem that lit up every queer club from New York to Berlin. In those rooms, she wasn't too black, too loud, or too masculine. She was the main event. Between 1977 and 1985, she released a trilogy of iconic albums: Portfolio, Fame, Nightclubbing. Hits like I Need a Man, La Vie en Rose, Pull Up to the Bumper, and Slave to the Rhythm cemented her voice in the sound of a generation. The music world didn't know what to make of her. Her music was sharp, lean, half-spoken, an aesthetic all her own. It wasn't disco, punk, reggae, or soul. She was all of it and none of it. Still, they couldn't stop looking. Her album covers became events. Her music videos, provocations. She embodied contradictions, masculine and feminine, mechanical and primal, cold and intimate. The last album entered the top 20 in numerous countries, earned platinum certification, and landed on countless greatest albums of all time lists. While she was conquering sound, she stepped into cinema, holding all of that, pushing it forward, performing it night after night, takes a strength most of us will never understand. For anybody else, it would felt like too much. The scale, the momentum. Imagine what it meant to be her. One of her first roles was Deadly Vengeance, a low-budget vampire flick. But something about her was impossible to overlook.
Now, we brought some pictures of you, and we want to see what you look like. You have so many looks, and each one, look at you here. Oh,
that's
sex
bad.
bitch bomb. Grace.
That's the way I looked at Roger Moore. He said, "Grace, please don't look at me like that."
And what is this?
Upset. This was also from A View to a Kill, after I became the good girl. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And that's a savage.
Oh. Fabulous.
That's from Conan.
Oh,
this is from Bam.
In Conan, she was a warrior, so commanding that even Schwarzenegger later said, "She scared me."
What do you think you're doing?
Covering your wound.
My wound is lower.
We don't want an infection to spread.
I'll spread your head open.
In Bond, she played Mayday, the unforgettable assassin who jumped from the Eiffel Tower.
And a secret weapon.
We're not sure about her. Name's Mayday.
Someone will take care of you.
Oh, you'll see to that personally, will you?
There's only one man who can stop them.
Nobody could stop her. And while all this happened, she partied in the just reopened Must Be discotheque. Inside Studio 54, fashion met money. Models, artists, musicians, celebrities, the Warhol crowd, drag queens, the fashion kids. Grace was everywhere. And she wasn't just in the scene. She was the scene. Not in spite of her otherness, but because of it. A muse in the active sense, a brutal force that shaped the artists around her. Designers didn't just dress her. They designed entire collections around her. Jean-Paul Goude turned her into sculpture. Keith Haring painted her body like a living canvas. Andy Warhol didn't just photograph her. He made silk screens and Polaroids that echoed the same framing he once gave to Marilyn. She appeared in their studios, in their visions, in their work. The drugs were everywhere. But she didn't lose herself. While others spiraled, she remained mostly in control, except her anger. In the early 80s, while on tour in Australia, Grace was assigned a local bodyguard, a young Swedish student named Dolph Lundgren, who should later become a movie star.
How did you meet?
I was studying chemical engineering in Australia and...
Are you kidding me?
No, I'm not.
Me and my buddy, who was my sparring partner, we got hired to do some special work at a rock concert. And one of them was this beautiful black singer, statuesque lady named Grace Jones.
They spent the night together almost immediately. She flew him back to New York. He moved in. Even Dolph Lundgren remembered her as volatile and unforgettable. But he wasn't afraid of her. That's why it worked. He met her fire with calm.
One day the maid calls me and says, "Oh, sir, you have to come back." I'm like, "Why?" "Oh, ma'am is burning all your clothes." Well, it turned out I had all these.
Her volatility with balance. And that, maybe more than anything, earned her loyalty.
She showed up looking for you carrying a gun.
Yeah, there were a few things like that. She helped us get Grace to the set because everybody's standing by and she's 5 hours late or 8 hours late. But she's armed, she's got a gun, and she doesn't want to come out. So I had to go up and take the gun out, take the clip out, and she went back to work.
Her outbursts became legend. No one could predict when she'd explode. Only that she could. And only much later, when she finally spoke of her past, did we begin to understand why. Back in the 80s, trauma wasn't a word people used. There was no language for rage, especially not for women. She spoke first. Just as she'd challenged beauty norms and gender roles, she now opened the door to something even harder. Her past, about the fear men triggered in her, and how she later became like them, in her own way. Grace Jones grew up in Jamaica, in a strict Pentecostal household where discipline was physical and obedience was non-negotiable. The man who raised her, her grandmother's second husband, was feared by everyone. Not strict, violent. Grace was beaten for dancing, for dressing up, for speaking back. Control was holy. Pain was doctrine. Her brother Noel later became a pastor in Los Angeles and found success in American megachurches, where sermons are theater and spectacle is part of faith. Grace went the other way. In secret, she played with lipstick, hoarded torn-out magazine pages, and wrapped herself in bed sheets like gowns. To her family, fashion was vanity. Makeup was sin. But to Grace, it was salvation. But there was also light, music. Her mother, a seamstress for wedding dresses, introduced her to style. Grace began to sing, to dance. Even before she arrived in New York, she carried it all inside her: anger, tempo, elegance.
As far as you think you can go, I can go even further. So I think that's what I meant by the ultimate shocker. You know, some people really like to sort of take me on, you know.
You could top them.
Oh, that's exactly.
Yeah. Matter of fact,
I don't have to answer to anybody.
I know that. I heard that. Matter of fact, and I'm keeping a little distance, I heard.
What breaks others became her foundation. What she once feared became part of her persona. And that's what made her dangerous. Women didn't fear Grace Jones, but the ones who panicked were men.
I think being aggressive in a positive way is very good, and it protects me as well. I mean, it puts everyone on their guard to be nice to me.
When she slapped a British talk show host on live television, The Russell Hardy Show, 1981, the headlines exploded. Unhinged, they wrote. Violent. But few looked closer. Her eyes glazed, her speech loose. She was high. Then they mocked her perfume, laughed at her, minimized her. One slap, then another, not rehearsed. Pure reflex.
I can't look at you. No, hold.
But at that moment, it wasn't about fragrance. It was about control, taken, belittled, and then reclaimed. The situations were all kind of similar, and they triggered her. She started to use that fear as an advantage. She played with it. It made her even more famous. It was the master tape of her latest work, vulnerable and worth millions. So she did what she always did, made herself impossible to ignore. She lay down on the runway and waited until she was allowed to take them with her. But behind that motion, things unraveled. Someone in her team, someone trusted, disappeared with half her fortune. And by the time she realized, it was too late. When the audits came, she didn't have the numbers. What she had were debts. Tax bills, missing funds, no answers. She quit drugs. Her son was born. And she kept moving. Shoots, tours, stages. The rhythm never broke because she had to. She worked through her pregnancy, brought him with her.
They have an expectation for what you're going to be like, don't they?
Yeah, but everybody, when they meet him, they cannot believe he's my son.
Why not?
Because they think he should be crazy or gay or I don't know. You know?
Years passed, the scandals faded, the silhouette remained. She still performed, sometimes in nightclubs, sometimes in museums, sometimes under open skies, when she accepted the Order of Jamaica in 2018. The honors came late, the World Music Award, the Grammy for Lifetime Achievement. But even then, the sense remained that the world never quite knew what to do with her. Her autobiography wasn't a reconciliation. I'll Never Write My Memoirs was an attack on a system that had tried to tame her for decades. Grace Jones called it out: the industry, the expectations, the myth that she'd one day soften. On Queen Elizabeth's birthday, she stood on stage spinning a golden hula hoop for the entire length of her song. 70 years old, spine straight, arms raised, breath steady. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Grace Jones.